welcome, and once again to It's My YouTube and I'll blog if I want to, the place where the production values are so high that... Okay, I'm sorry. I've actually got the stream open as well in a browser so that I can try to pay attention to the chat window, and it actually hasn't caught up with the actual thing yet. But anyway, and then when I do these live streams, this introduction is more for the benefit of the people who are watching the record, watch it, like on my channel or whatever later on. So we are actually going to be handling okay, let me check something here. Huh. Check one thing here. I'm still getting used to doing the streaming this way as opposed to the Google Hangouts, so. Check one thing here. I'm still getting used to doing the streaming this way as opposed to the Google Hangouts, so. Okay, well at least that answers that question. Let me mute the stream there. And that way I can bring up one thing here. I'm still getting used to doing the streaming this way as opposed to the Google Hangouts. So. Okay, well at least that answers that question. Let me mute the stream there. Okay, good. Alright, and... sorry about that. Let me actually share the link to a couple of prop groups and stuff that I'm in. Alright. And let me, alright, now that I've got those links shared. Oh, and alright, eventually I will figure out how to do the links and everything, and I'll have that all ready to go. As I said, I'm really used to doing it through the Google Hangouts, which, as you can see, I've actually got a much better quality of video. And actually, let me delete this off of my main feed. Alright, so yeah, that's in the pepakura library, that's in the RPF, and that's on diaxis. Alright, cool. Anyway, now that we are on to what it is that I'm supposed to be doing here, and let me bring up my live window. Alright, cool. Alright, cool. Anyway, this is what it is that I'm working on now, because I'm actually going to be backfilling these with expanding foam and stuff like that as an experiment. The next set of things I'm actually going to be doing okay, well, I'll get to that later on, but I actually do have a pepakura file for, it's basically the bottom sole part of the boot, but it actually has the jet for the bottom of the foot, and it's got the frame that would be in the undersuit, and so I'm going to be looking at how to edit that pattern to be able to give me a template to lay out like onto sheet metal or something that I can actually shape into an actual support frame for the suit and develop that particular thing there. Somebody, I can't remember who it was, but on one of the pepakura groups that I'm on, actually posted the files for like the forearm, the bicep, and the shin parts anyway. So basically I'll be able to develop at least the main chunk of the suit. I still have to develop like the thigh section and the torso section. I do have a pretty good, very detailed OBJ for the full for the full suit full suit's underframe, and so that will be able to I'll be able to turn that into a template for the entire undersuit frame, which I'll be able to turn it like to a modular type thing. But so I'm going to be doing the boots first, so that way I can just get these and let foam cure and settle in and all, because my main concern is, let's see here, which crap, okay, oh, that'll still be alright. My main concern is just to make sure that these do not compress under my weight, because this entire heel wedge is actually hollow. So that's why I want to do the expanding foam and all. And I'm actually kind of lucky that I did get a bit of gapping here. So that way I can try to go in through that and shoot the expanding foam in and just let it fill in and all. So it's basically an experiment once I get to that point. And then, yeah, those of you who know my Darth Vader helmet build that's going on for this. In any event, the way that you do the, I use the wood glue method rather than the fiberglass resin. It's a lot safer. It's actually a lot cheaper. I actually end up spending about half of what I would have spent on like resin and fiberglass cloth on the wood glue and the the wood glue, the baby wipes and stuff like that. You can still use a fiberglass cloth. In fact, the tutorial that I learned this from, they actually recommend they actually recommend the fiberglass cloth because it's what everybody uses and all. But basically, if you just basically Google hardened pepakura with wood glue, and you'll find a link for the 405 on there. Usually my videos actually are in like the top couple or whatever, because like nobody else seems to actually have videos on how to harden the pepakura, how to harden pepakura with the wood glue. So, first thing you do, this is actually 3 parts. The main body of the boot, the heel wedge, and the toe cap. So, basically what I've done is I just shot a little bit of hot glue into a couple places, mostly just to keep the parts together, while I was working on everything, so that way it just makes storage and everything a lot easier. And I could actually harden this with everything on there, but realistically I'm gonna get a much stronger piece by being able to actually do all of the various pieces kind of individually. So first thing to do is to separate these. not a big deal. I really don't like to pull the paper off of it. But okay. Well, that's one of the dangers of doing it the way that I do. A lot of people prefer to print directly onto the cardstock and everything. I personally prefer to actually just have just the one standard supply of letter paper, and then from there I print out the patterns. I mount it onto my build material with the the layer spray adhesive, and then from there, do all the folding and cutting and gluing and all. Lately, I don't know why it seems to be doing this, but it kind of wants to separate from the from the build material, which is not exactly a I don't know, not exactly a major problem. It's a bit of an annoyance because you tend to have to end up going back in and resecuring a few things and all. And I mean, you can deal with it, so it's not too bad. It's just mostly an annoyance, and it really only happens like in a couple of places and all. So alright, so for now, let me actually heat up the hot glue gun again, and we'll be needing this in a second. So it's actually good that some of these things are happening, so that way I can kind of go over like some of the things you have to be concerned about. Here, for example, you'll see the tabs actually go up under this faceplate here, and so the thing is the paper that was on those tabs is still attached, in the back there. But, well, I can't really get a decent camera angle on it, just trust me. But if you look, you'll kind of see that there's still this, like, a ridge of paper or whatever. And so basically all I got to do is just shoot some glue on these tabs and just kind of, because mostly I just wanted to keep that kind of just secure. I mean, I could really just do it, just run a line and go from there. Yeah, but also this is my other one. This is actually the second one that I've done. And I had a kind of issue. I mean, you don't really see it that bad. And I mean, I could very easily, just harden up, paint up, whatever else. I'm probably still going to leave that hole right there open, so that way I can just shoot some foam in and just, let it go. But I've still got my other one. This is just one that I was doing because I was just trying with a different material rather than the cardboard that I'd used before. So, but yeah, it's your basic identity disc. I actually have another copy of the pattern printed out, so that way once I do the hardening and all, then I can actually go and lay it back over and possibly cut out like various pieces or whatever, or actually cut it out and then just line it down and just kind of get a nice uniform thing, hit it with a clear coat and all, because it's going to be bright yellow because of the wood glue anyway, as you've probably seen on some of my other videos with the helmet piece that I've done, which is actually above the camera. Now I just don't feel like pulling it down. So it's going to be bright yellow anyway, and so I may end up actually just taking all of like the black and colored in pieces and just cutting those out of the pattern that I have printed out, and actually positioning it, fixing it, hit the whole thing with a clear coat after doing a recolor on the black parts or whatever, and so make a glue disc out of it. So we'll see what happens with that. But it's actually like right here, it kind of comes up a little bit. And then there. So, I mean, the warping is not that bad. I mean, for a carry-around piece, it'll get the job done. I can kind of massage it back into place and go from there, but I will probably end up cutting another one of these out later on, and then actually really kind of being very, a hell of a lot more careful than I was, because I was pretty damn careful. I'm not sure where the alignment problem came into it, and so I'm going to really have to just kind of experiment with this, and then I'm also going to be trying to design a different form for it. I'm really wanting to kind of have it where I have the inner ring that I put together, and then the rest of it's just kind of pieces, so that it just all down the thing. I just have sections that just flip. I just bring together around the thing rather than the halves and so forth. So let's see what happens with that. In any event, there we go. And so just to kind of get this thing settled in. It does not need to be nearly as on set as it did during the build process and all, because the hardening process is going to actually take care of a lot of that. And basically what you want to try to do in places like I had to fix there, you want to just kind of flex it to where it doesn't deform the rest of it, but it pushes that tab against that face right there. So alright, this is actually becoming one of my tools. To actually, bank doesn't do these mini cards anymore. I really like the mini card. It's like this is actually the number from my old card anyway, and plus obviously scratching it out helps. But basically, it's like if you have things like if you're trying to smooth out body fillers, stuff like that, credit cards make a really good thing for that. So, anyway, so got the repair jobs done that we need. Now we'll discuss the wood glue end of this. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Friends texting who actually wanted me to let him know about about when I get this stream going and all. But basically, I don't even know if I have any viewers, to be honest. I have no clue if I have any viewers at this point. But basically, he was the one who actually he like specifically requested I let him know when I'm going to be doing the foam stuff. So I told him right now this is what I'm doing to prep out for the foam in a couple of days. All right, cool, got it. Yeah, and with what it is that I'm going to be doing with this particular piece, the hot glue is not exactly the biggest issue in the world because the baby wipes are actually going to hold everything together for the most part anyway. So, yeah, so that's out of the way. This is the specific glue that I use. It was actually what the tutorial on the 405 recommended is actually type 3. It's like basically you want to use like if you're actually doing this by the ultimate recommendation, you actually want to use type 3. I believe it's on the outside and type 2 on the inside, or it's type, yeah, you want to use type 3 on the outside because it has a higher water resistance than this. This stuff is damn near waterproof. The type 3 basically is waterproof. But they said that if you want to just pick one glue, type 2 will get the job done very well. So, and basically, it's actually very easy. It's been a while since I did this with a little styrofoam inner cap thingy got stuck to it. Wow, I didn't realize I had that much residue on here. Well, anyway. Let me put that back on for a second. And then the other part of this is the baby wipes. Now, there are different kinds, different brands of everything else, but you have this kind, I can't remember what the brand is, it almost kind of feels like paper or felt, really. You have these that, it's a little bit softer and whatever else. And then actually there was this one packet I've had kicking around for a while that I completely forgot about. These are almost like a pillowy kind of sort of texture or whatever. There's still that same soft whatever else. You do kind of want to use the more felt, stiffer kind of ones, I think, but any of them will actually work and get the job done perfectly well. So, oh, and one more thing for this particular project, which I almost forgot. This is a shoe that was actually in decent condition when I got it from Goodwill, and did not last very long. But it has a few important things, one of which are insoles, which I can just put into the thing. I also have a pair of sneakers that is getting ready to be retired, so I can actually add to the foot padding with that by putting these insoles into that. But the more important thing from this is the fact that I actually can use these soles. Now, even though it has that kind of waffling going on, it may or may not be very conducive to walking. And so what I'll be doing is I'm actually going to be taking the sole pieces, such as I'll be taking like the heel piece, and the toe and the sole piece, probably reversing them just because of the way that the size and all. But that way I'll be able to actually walk very well in the convention, and not scuff up the boots that bad, but also be able to get some grip as I'm like walking around and everything else. So it's just a matter of how I can get them to attach and everything else, which we've got a few ideas, which we'll cover that along the way. So, first thing you do with baby wipes, I'm going to use just these for now. There was supposed to be a hell of a lot more. I don't know where they went. So, but you see here, I've got the strip there, and you pretty much do the cloth like you do with the, you do the baby wipes pretty much the same way you do with the fiberglass cloth. And you basically just want, the average size piece that you use for the fiberglass cloth. I mean, generally anywhere from an inch to, maybe 2.5 inches wide. You want it maybe, 2, 3, 4 inches long. Really depends on what you're doing, and, I'll leave that there. It really depends on what it is you're doing and everything. Like if you're doing the horns on a helmet, you would really kind of want for to actually have smaller pieces, because you'll be able to wrap them around like the horn a little bit easier. Whereas for this, I can use larger pieces and all, but I do kind of like having a measure of control with it by being able to have like smaller strips, or some kind of somewhat thinner strips, and just kind of control the area that I'm covering and everything. Also, when you get too large, you kind of get into areas, such as this, where there's kind of like very gentle slopes, that if I was to try to lay down a large piece, it would be wanting to do, it wants to kind of follow the edge as I'm putting it down, so I could end up actually getting creasing and all, which the creases would not really matter for this because you will not see any of this or whatever else, but it just really kind of helps you just go along if you try to keep it as unwrinkly and creased as possible. If it gets creased and whatever else, not really that big a deal. It's just you kind of, it's if you're going to be doing like shaping and stuff like that using body filler and whatever else, you can kind of compensate for a lot of that along the way there. Okay, apparently there's a limit to how many layers you can cut at a time. Which is another reason why I keep several different pairs of scissors around. Yeah, the actual brand of baby wipes and everything you use or whatever, not really that important. Even like this stuff, the consistency with the more kind of tight woven felt versus a little bit looser or whatever else. Generally, I have not really found any sort of real difference in between them and all. It really is really the main thing that really is affected by by how the wipe is and all is really just how easy it is to work with during while you're cutting everything. If it's the tighter weave, it's a lot easier to cut and everything. Here I'm having to kind of put a little bit of tension on it to kind of give me a good place to bite in through the fibers with the scissors. I also find it a lot easier to be able to use my main scissors, which I like these. They're my good general purpose scissors. It's actually a pair of kitchen shears that came in like an entire set of like cutlery and kitchen tools and stuff like that, since you already have a good pair of kitchen scissors. And then if I need more, I will just cut more. Oh, okay, now. And I'm really going to have to look into the kind of wipes that I get. These are actually more the type that I actually prefer. They are more tighter weave and everything. It's actually some like no-name brand I got it at friggin' oh god, not CVS. I think it was Walgreens or Rite Aid or something like that. But it's just like some no-name brand. It costs like $2 for this big honking pack. Alright. Now, the way to do the wood glue is if you're just doing a piece or whatever else and all, obviously you don't need that much and all. I just basically put like, not too hellified much, but you just basically just get yourself a good bit in there. This is just plain, simple tap water. The actual tutorial I read recommended half and half or whatever. It's not, I mean, I tend to like it to be a little bit thicker than what they call for in the tutorial, because it's a little bit easier for me to work with that way. But a lot of people say that the 50-50 blend really works good for them. I just prefer to do it a little bit thicker because the way that I do it, the thicker blend actually kind of tends to work a little bit more. So mostly I just kind of get it to where it's not soupy, and it does run off the brush, pretty easy, but I do like it to be a little bit thicker than what they actually call for in the thing, so it doesn't run as much when I'm doing it, when I'm actually painting it on and all. Good thing about this is it self-levels really well, though. And this is just your basic, this is actually a Betty Crocker silicone basting brush. Yeah. And as you can see, no gloves, no particular, safety gear, no friggin' respirator. I like to live dangerously. No, that's one of the benefits of using the wood glue over the fiberglass resin and everything. It's a lot safer. You don't have to really worry about the chemicals and whatever else. And it passes the knock test really well. I've actually taken the helmet that I did with the wood glue, and I mean, I about beat the piss out of it. I ended up splitting it in like one place. And the fun thing, like, I kind of, what I usually do is I look at the first bit that I put down, being, I guess, a primer, I guess you could call it. I just basically like to get the surface, pretty well covered and all. Try to make sure there's no, like, real gaps and stuff like that. You get some air bubbles in it or whatever else. Not that big a deal. You just kind of just keep going. Move it around, fill in any like little divots and stuff like that that you find. Push it into whatever else that come up. Yeah. The self levels, actually, pretty well and all. I'm actually going to be doing like a couple of layers. All I'm doing is just basically just tapping it down to kind of give it full surface contact, I guess. Uh, like I've actually had a couple of friends of mine who, they actually, I mean, they're, professional prop makers and all, and they actually know what they're doing. They make a living doing it and all, and everything. And they hear some of the terms I use, like back cuts and, various things, and they just like cringe because, like, that's not what it's called. And I'm like, I was not trained at the feet of the masters in the industry. I'm sorry. All right, good. once it dries, I'll just wipe it up. Or scrape it up, I should say. Yeah, now see, there's actually a mixed blessing with the wood glue method, by the way. The pot time is very long. I mean, you can, like, really, relax and just kind of, But that's also kind of one of the drawbacks to it. With the pot time being so long, it means that the cure time is a little bit long. And so you got to kind of wait a little bit for this stuff to actually harden up fully. But when it does, it definitely makes the wait worth it. Obviously, having an actual plan for which way you go and you put this crap on probably be recommended, but the fact that it's got such a long pot time means that you don't have to be so, all with it, because that's why I recommend the wood glue method for beginners, because it really kind of gives you the ability to practice with a very forgiving material and all. So that way, if you're trying to learn how to position the strips and everything else, you can like really kind of take the time to get in there and actually position them correctly and everything. You can actually do it without, just with your bare hands. So it actually does kind of like really help with having the ability to build your skills that way. Hello. Hello? Who? Who are you? Okay, you have definitely the wrong number. Thank you very much. I love telemarketers, and they're sitting there saying, "Hello, can I speak to whoever?" And it's like, I don't care who you are, I cannot understand you. By the way, the pot time on this is tremendous. The work time, uh, it's kind of a hit or miss bag, actually, to be honest. Depending on how you do it, you can actually get yourself a good, 10, 15 minutes of workable time out of it. But, I mean, I could sit there, walk away, come back, come back in a couple hours, and that would still be pretty much usable in that, in that bucket right there. But to be able to work with it once I've got it painted on and everything, it does kind of get a little bit stiff after maybe like 10, 15 minutes or whatever else. So, but you do still have pretty good bit of work time that you can get out of it. Okay. Up underneath there, I ain't happy with it, but it's actually not going to be a problem. You really do want to try to avoid it coming out like that if ever possible, though. Yep. I mean, feel free to walk in your underwear. It is definitely official. Next year, I am carving the toe and heel pieces out of like a solid piece of wood or something. not exactly the prettiest in certain places, but alright, you really should do it in the strips, like I've shown in my other videos and all. If you've got large surfaces like this, then, at least for proof of concept, you see that, yes, you can, in fact, do it as a single piece. Yeah, got the, creasing and everything there that, it can actually be corrected. I could come in later on and trim things off and kind of smooth it out and everything else, but, alright, cool. Alright, so that can be set to the side and dealt with later. Wow, okay. Okay, I see how where my issue is with this now. See, I can get in there but it's going to really be kind of difficult to really give it the good solid treatment that this particular thing needs. But I can harden the entire outside, and then once that's done, then I can merely separate it, and then be able to get in there, harden the inside of this piece, harden the inside of this piece, and then, so. So yeah, some of the stuff you really need to be aware of while you're building. The structure of the piece that you're doing is going to affect how you go about the various parts of it. Ironically, even though these are much smaller, these are actually a little bit more difficult to do out than things like chest plates and, various other stuff, because, they're a lot easier to build because fewer parts and everything else, but it's the way that it's actually structured is just kind of, there are these little overhangs and whatever else that, like with a chest plate, you have a few things to, to deal with, but it's actually fairly easy, to deal with, because it's, close enough to government work calling it a large flat surface. Where this, I've got, inside and everything else to do, and so pieces like this are a little bit more difficult. Not that hard, you just got to kind of figure out how to go about doing that as you go along. Another thing to be aware of, always cut your strips beforehand so you're not ending up in the situation like I am where you're trying to rush through to get stuff done. And there we go. A lot more even coverage and everything else. So basically, when it is you're doing your prop and costume building, you really need to take into account the structure and everything else. I actually didn't do that good a job at this with the other pieces and all, with the actual like boot and toe cap. And I mean, it's not. I mean, for what it is that I'm going to be doing, this actually, you know, more plain boot and everything actually does fit in well with it. It's not a matter of like, you know, chickening out and whatever else. It's realistically, it's what it is that I've got to do to get these boot pieces into order. I really don't have time to do before Dragon Con this year, so I'm gonna actually basically just, all right, cool. I will leave those off to the side. I'm still gonna finish hardening those out and everything, and then do the foam to see whether or not it works and all. And if it does, then I may still go with that, or I'm probably going to end up doing like the solid wooden pieces or something like that, just to kind of really get a good solid boot piece going and all. In any event, I'm going to cap this off for now because I need to actually get a couple other things done. And I really work better if I'm not having to sit there and like really work to the camera and everything else at this point. So I'm going to actually cap this off so that way I can like really buckle down and get this stuff going and get this armor like busted out and everything. So anyway, thank you for continuing to watch and have a nice day.